My mama done told me when I was in knee pants. My mama done told me, son.
What did she tell you?
A woman of sweet talk,
Yes.
I'll give you the glad eye. But when that sweet talk is done,
Keep on a-talking.
a woman's a two-faced, a worrisome that'll leave you to sing the blues, in the night.
The first Negro air circus. It never made the white newspapers. But the always optimistic Powell said it did make a profit, and he started planning the 5 Blackbirds' ambitious 100-city tour without Herbert Julian. Julian appeared in print a few weeks later. In an interview with a black newspaper, Julian said that the time had come for the first coast-to-coast flight by an African American, and he was prepared to do it. In fact, he had already put down the deposit on the airplane. Powell didn't care for that one bit. He put the 5 Blackbird National Tour on hold and started planning his own cross-country flight, the long-distance Bendix Trophy race from LA to Cleveland, which would get him 2/3 of the way to New York. He would also become the first African American to enter the national air races, 2 firsts in 1. Irvin Wells agreed to be his co-pilot. Only the best and fastest entered the Bendix. It was an expensive proposition. Of the 56 airplanes entered that year, the majority were custom-built speed machines, their fuselages spackled with sponsors' logos. Powell's airplane wasn't custom-built, it wasn't new, it wasn't even fast. Save for the Bessie Coleman Aero Club sticker, it had no sponsors. In fact, they had 0 chance of winning. Still, the white newspapers and national radio stations and movie newsreels all covered the race. With Powell and Wells entered, it meant publicity for the Bessie Coleman Aero Club. Powell and Wells took off a few places behind their leader. Their airplane made it as far as El Paso, where they were forced to patch up the engine. The engine struggled toward the rugged Sacramento Mountains before it suddenly died. The landing gear hit the steep, rocky slope, which flipped the airplane over. It suffered minor damage, but they escaped uninjured. Powell already had experience navigating unknown terrain on foot. First off, they waited for nightfall, when they searched for artificial light. They spotted one and set out for it. Gradually, it expanded into a ranch. They talked it over and decided that their best course as African Americans was to not wake up the occupants in the dead of night. Instead, they should bed down in the open on a pile of sand and sleep. Cows nuzzled them, but before they were fully awake, a rifle-wielding man appeared, identifying himself as a Texas Ranger. Powell and Wells pointed out their flying suits and said they had taken off from El Paso the day before, but engine trouble forced them to crash. However, the ranch hand / Texas Ranger had heard that an El Paso milkman was murdered just 2 days before. Wells and Powell carefully showed their pilot's licenses, which displayed their photos. A car pulled up with 4 men and 4 shotguns. Wells and Powell showed their pilot's licenses again, retelling their story. The rancher's son was with them, and he was also a pilot. He knew about 2 black flyers in the Bendix Trophy race. Plus, he had also watched them take off from El Paso. The rancher turned out to be one of the state's wealthiest cattle barons. He put all his resources at their disposal. While their airplane was undergoing repairs, the white El Paso newspapers published breathtaking accounts of their heroic landing and survival skills. The day after Powell and Wells flew back to LA, Bannon and Thomas Allen took off for New York.
My mama done told